If you're watching at home and you really want to close your first 10K copy client, I promise, hand to heart, it's not difficult. Actually, closing a 10K client could be 10 times easier than closing a 5K client or a 3K client.
Let's say you close a 3K client. I've had a lot of copywriters tell me like, oh, the client doesn't want to get on an onboarding call, doesn't really want to do too much.
We often think that we have to say yes to every single client that comes our door because they're waving 30 G's right in front of you. And it's not what you say yes to, it's what you're saying no to.
You know what the thing is though, is especially if you're watching this from home and you're thinking like, oh, I can't say no to a 5K gig. When you create space, something always fills it. So if you say no to that 4K client, you could be 1 or 2 weeks away from a better deal. And what I've often found,
something that really impacted me, I was in Mexico in 2023 for this inner circle mastermind with Justin Goff and Dan Ferrari. Every single one of those guys, they were probably ahead of me. They worked with bigger names, they were making more money. But something that then I realized when we were at the hot seats with Dan and Justin is that...
So today I'm here with Israel. Thank you so much for joining me. And I know that you've worked with some of the biggest agencies like Bad Marketing, Adspend.com, and Heman Media, and you work with some of the biggest names in the industry. So yeah, I'm really excited to chat with you because, you've got a great perspective working with so many of the biggest in our industry.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me. And, thank you for those watching at home. You're probably wondering, first off, who am I, right? Like I like to say, I'm the industry's best kept secret. Not widely known, but hopefully that's about to change. And yeah, just very grateful to be here. And let's just talk about my journey and some good stuff copywriters can use now, move forward.
One of the most interesting things that you've shared with me recently that I thought I definitely going to ask you this question on our call today is about VSL retainers.
Yeah,
Now, I thought that's so fascinating to me. It's like, how many copywriters will say, oh, you're going to get an email retainer. It's the only way to get a retainer. But when you're a good writer, there are many ways to create repeat work from projects that when you're a newer copywriter, you think are just one-time projects.
absolutely. Like in my experience, and probably for someone watching at home, if you've been a copywriter for like a couple of years now or you're starting out, VSLs could be slightly intimidating, right? Because it's like this main marketing asset. And, especially book call funnels, anything high ticket, even for supplements and lower ticket stuff. And some people make it seem like it's this behemoth of a project. Like, I'm just going to take 2 weeks for research, then 2 weeks for writing, then 2 weeks for editing. And after 2 months, I'll be fully done and I can charge 10K and that's it. Right. But in reality, like with most of the principles that you guys been talking about this on this channel, and some golden nuggets that I'll be talking more about later, it should be easy to find more VSL clients, get into the flow state of writing VSLs properly. And most importantly, and something that most people don't really talk about, is how to optimize them, right? How can you actually get a leg up with someone who's running a VSL and potentially just beat that control, maybe without even writing copy. So that's going to be interesting.
What do you mean without writing copy?
Yeah, so that's a big reveal, huh? So
That sounds good. Yeah.
like a lot of people just go into especially when they're trying to win like a VSL retainer, like you approach people with like maybe like a cold email, cold DM, maybe like a referral intro, and go like, hey, I saw your VSL, I think I can beat it, right? You don't have much context unless the client or prospect decides to, actually give you access to data. You won't really know what's working or why it's working, right? When you go on a Facebook ad library, for example, and you see that they've been running the same ads to the same VSL for a while now, you could assume they're spending a lot of money and the thing is working. But you don't know what their cost per book call is. You don't know what quality. You don't know what their sales team is saying. You don't know what actually is the biggest needle mover. That's something that working with agencies really, really helped me understand, that there's many ways to win, not just copy, right? And beating a VSL without writing copy goes precisely in the structure of the VSL page, for example, right? maybe if the running VSL has a lower play rate, and if we can just increase the play rate by, I don't know, dude, from 30% to 45%, 40% or something like that, maybe your engagement goes up, maybe the lead flow goes up, maybe your sales team gets more calls and therefore has more opportunity to actually pitch the service. Bro, it's just one tiny switch in the whole ecosystem that may ripple like this big compound effect, right? And honestly, you may not even need to write something to do that.
I've noticed time and time again, like chatting with copywriters who have a lot of experience and who have done things for bigger clients, that we're not really that much writers. It's like a part of it, but it's much more about marketing, psychology, thinking about the experience that a prospect is going through. And yeah, writing is obviously a part
Yeah.
of it, but it seems to be more of it's just an extension of the actual skill set. And I don't know, these days I find that many people have made copywriting this like word that, oh, it's a commodity thing. It's like it's copy. It's just write the
Yeah.
words. But my belief is that no, copywriters, it's like the wrong word. It's not even like writing. It's like a lot of it is writing for sure, but it's all these things, and there are very few people that actually know the details of how to get the funnel to convert and how to get people to go through the process, because a lot of the time copywriters would just swipe somebody else's funnel and say, oh, this is working for so-and-so's business. Let's just replicate that here and change the words up. But there's so much more to it than that. So it's cool to hear that, yeah, like, thinking about the stuff other than just writing the words is going to actually make some of the biggest differences.
Absolutely. Like I remember probably 5, 6 years ago, my wife used to tell people that I was the coach behind coaches. That was the best way she could find to explain what I was doing, right? But nowadays, even like people I know on the street, when they ask and I say, well, oh, I'm a copywriter, they go like, oh, actually for ads and stuff. It's like it's getting wider.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
it's getting widely
They know
known.
what it is. Huh.
Yeah, which
Mm.
is quite odd, because it probably happened to you too, like 4 or 5 years ago. Like, oh, what does Matthew do? I don't know, man. He's just sits behind his computer and plays around with Google Docs, whatever, right? But in my case, right, even the people in my inner circle, they're starting to really understand and get a grasp of, our industry, and that's a great sign, right? Because it's going to the masses. But when it comes to the act of writing, I would say that I've always been a writer. Ever since I was like a teenage dude, I've always been more like a bookworm. But there's this saying that my mentor used to tell me, Dan Ferrari. You probably know Dan Ferrari, great guy. He said to me that everyone's a copywriter until they have to write more than 1,000 words.
Oh,
And that's probably gonna hit hard for those like that get repeatable feedback from some clients, like, I'm just not vibrating with this line, or I wouldn't say it this way, stuff like that.
yeah.
They're always very opinionated,
Mm.
because they know how to read. But when it comes to actual marketing IQ, when you have to actually digest numbers, for example,
Mm.
and tell me what those numbers mean, how's that going to impact you know the back end of your funnel, like, they probably won't be as opinionated when it comes to that just by reading through a script or chiefing an ad, right? And that's why I always say, like, even to Johnny Cam, right? Like, I know you're his mentor. I used to chief him at Bad Marketing. If you really want to make a dent in the industry and make yourself like AI proof, if you want to call it that way, or you just want to level up, you need to understand media buying. You need to understand sales. You need to understand, psychology principles. And obviously, you should become a better writer by just, going into
Mm.
enough repetition. But it's a compound of things. And copy alone is just 15 to 20% of the whole piece that affects the end result, you know?
Mm.
You get a great offer and subpar copywriter, it may still work. You may get the best copywriter alive, like call it Alan Sultanich, call it Dan Ferrari, call it Andrew Milligan, Lee Thompson, whatever, and the offer is actually bad, right? You're gonna have to use like some dark lord tactics or unethical marketing principles to actually see some results, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it is what it is. But yeah, absolutely. Like writing is just one thing, and if you're a copywriter at home watching this, like you really need to just embrace that you're actually a marketer, and we think like marketers first.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. There's a lot of copy that I've seen for very big businesses, and it's not that good, you know? It's okay. There's a lot of like funnels and emails I read and from 8-figure, 9-figure people, and I'm like, huh, that's yeah, that's it's okay copy, you know?
It's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But it's like they're pretty happy and they're using it and they're converting with it and it's working and that just reminds me, it's like, that personal brand is carrying 80% of the sale, the offer, plus the personal brand's carrying most of it. So that copy is making a difference, but you know, you can get away with pretty average copy. But to be a copywriter that gets to that next level and sees opportunities where there aren't opportunities for copywriters who don't have like additional skills, like how would you recommend going about learning those things like media buying, sales, and marketing in general? Like, how do you do that as a copywriter?
Yeah, I can tell you from my own experience, like it happened because I started working with big agencies,
Mm.
right? Like my first approach to a big agency was with Hemon. And this is a funny story. I actually was just binge watching content at like 1 a.m. and I came across Hemon X. Spoiler alert, I'm the actual copy coach at Hemon X now, which is funny how the tables turn. Um, but I got exposed to that and I was like, dude, this is so much beyond anything I've ever seen when it comes to like actual ad writing and VSLs and the psychology behind stuff. It's like when you're self-taught, you don't get that much depth
Mm.
because you don't really know what matters and what doesn't matter. Like an early stage copywriter could think like, oh, well, this client is not doing well, that's probably my fault. You get the writers guild, right? Like it's probably one of the ads that I wrote is probably shit, and
Yeah.
sales team, they probably hate me. And it just comes from the fact that you don't understand how the whole lead journey works because you haven't had that exposure yet. So when I first entered Hemon, I sent them a cold email saying, you guys ruined my career. And I
Oh,
was like, dude, I don't know.
that's a
I
good
don't
hook.
know. I just really want to stand out. They opened the email and they told me like, dude, we thought you were crazy. Um, but yeah, like that was enough for us wanting to have a conversation with you. And I just asked for an internship. That internship was 30 days long. Then by the second week, they offered me a contract, right? And it was a 4K retainer at that moment. And from for someone living in South America, um, I was like Elon Musk for the moment, right? Like just dollar bills everywhere.
Amazing,
I was
amazing.
happy. Um, but then when I first entered, that's when I met Lee Thompson.
Yeah.
You know him. He was my first copy chief there. And he taught me that precisely copy is just one small portion of the whole thing,
Mm.
right? And I got access to first seeing how media buyers actually request copy because they should tell you first off, you need an ad. Why do you need it for? Do we have enough budget for running this ad and testing it correctly,
Mm.
right?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
What's your cost per lead? What's your cost per click? What's your CTR? Like all those micro metrics matter because each metric specifically talking about meta ads, and we can talk about YouTube ads later on, but with meta ads, each of those metrics tells a story. And when it comes to copywriting, you need to understand what those media buying related metrics are telling you. So you're not just writing blind, right? I'm just going to come up with this crazy angle and see if the media buyer wants to run it. But there's always something that's already working, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel, especially when you're working in an agency environment where everything's about speed, speed, speed,
Mm.
right? Um, so as a copywriter, like entry level, I was like, yeah, this is way beyond me. I need coaching. Explain to me what these metrics mean, and with enough repetition, I'm sure I'll get there. But that was my first approach. So for anyone watching at home, like, you should definitely understand what those metrics are telling you. You should definitely understand what does that mean for the back end. Like if you're running a book a call funnel or a direct to purchase type of funnel, so you can properly craft compelling assets that actually support the end result, right? Not just by not you don't want just to get by. You want to
Mm.
create something good. So yeah, in my case, it was asking for an internship. That's how I got like the actual secret sauce. But for anyone watching at home, joining some masterminds could work like that. Seeking for some mentorship or just going on YouTube and getting familiar with these metrics, at least to an entry level. The harsh reality is, and you probably picked this one up from my past monologue, is that you cannot skip hard work.
Yep.
That's the reality. You cannot skip hard work. You're gonna make mistakes, but those mistakes, if you pay attention, they should help you get better over time.
One thing that also stood out to me from this is that you asked questions. I think a lot of copywriters, at least I can tell you from my experience, when I first started, I didn't really want to ask any questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was a little nervous of asking, because I'm in the big leagues now. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to look like I don't know anything. And so for the first 3 months of my career, like working with big agency, well, it was more of like a in-house gig, but it had like an agency vibe to it because of the amount of copy we were producing on a day-to-day basis. And I didn't want to ask questions because I didn't want to look like I didn't know what I was doing. There were other people in the team that seemed to know what people were asking. So I thought, oh, I better not ask because they're not asking. So like, I don't want to be shown up as the guy that doesn't know what's going on. And one of my coaches back then actually told me like, you know, did you know what you needed to do? Because this copy doesn't quite look like what we were asking. And I said, well, I didn't really know what to do, but I didn't want to bother anybody. So I just did it this way anyway. And he said to me something I never forgot, which is what I still say to people today, is like, imagine you're a general and you have you have soldiers that report to you and under you. And now your superiors tell you you have to go into battle with your soldiers. But you don't want to look stupid, so you just nod your head and you say, yeah, sounds good, But then you and your soldiers go into battle with no idea what to expect. It's like, of course you're going to ask questions for the sake of your soldiers and for the sake of your own life. Like you got to ask questions. Hey, can I see what the terrain looks like? Can I see what to expect here? What's over here? You got to ask questions, otherwise all these people are at risk, And so he said that to me, and he says the same when it comes to writing copies. Like the whole team is relying on this funnel to work out for as much as possible. So if you don't ask the questions, then everybody's going to get negatively affected. Rather be stupid for a second, rather feel stupid for a second, look stupid for a second, but actually get
Then
what you
being
need,
ignorant, yeah.
right? And it's like, that actually really helped me with sales calls too, because at first I didn't want to ask questions in sales calls in case, you know, because some businesses, they have like certain abbreviations or certain ways that they say stuff that I'm just not even familiar with. Like even until 2 years ago, like I hadn't worked with clients that were calling leads like SQLs and MQLs. And I was
Yeah.
like, do you mean SQL or do you mean like SLO or like, what are you exactly saying? Oh, we're saying qualified sales lead. Okay. How do you define qualified sales lead? Because the way some people define it will be different to the way other people define it. So I found over the years, like even basic stuff that seems basic, sometimes it's good to ask the question to clarify like what is in their head, or maybe they think it's what it is when it's not. So it was interesting to hear you say that, that you asked a lot. I noticed you asked a lot of questions, and that's the only way you're really going to get that information, because people won't necessarily know what you don't know. So they'll just assume that you're on the
Yeah,
same page, right?
absolutely. And it also has to do with the fact that the client and your team, they're expecting you to ask those questions,
Mm.
right? And they're never going to assume, like in my case, when I'm chiefing, I never assume a copywriter's asking me all these questions because he's ignorant or because he doesn't understand the offer. It's actually the opposite, right? He really wants to make some good work and he
Mm.
really wants to find out some golden nuggets that he can use. Only way to get there is by asking questions, right?
Yeah.
Um like at least in my case, right, like very familiar with what you just said, like some terminology and stuff like that. I still don't get it, right? And it's fine. You don't need to be good at everything you do. Um, but you need to have that student mentality. Something that really impacted me. I was in Mexico in 2023 for this inner circle mastermind with Justin Goff and Dan Ferrari. I met a lot of good copywriters there. They're still good friends to this date. Uh, Shout out to Sam Charles if he's watching this. He was there. He's a good dude. Is that every single one of those guys, they were probably ahead of me when it came to the actual industry and the game, as we like to call it, right?
Hmm.
They worked with bigger names. They were making more money. Um, and they just had that natural confidence that maybe I was lacking at the minute. But something that then I realized when we were at the hot seats with Dan and Justin is that all those guys were going through the same problems that I was facing.
Hmm.
The one thing is, like, you don't see those A-list copywriters, if that's even a term, right? Um, Openly discussing their struggles, right? Because they want to protect their image, especially on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we're all facing struggles. Everyone has a real life. They just don't openly talk about when they're trying to look for clients and stuff like that. And just seeing that really made me touch some grass, right? Like I was like, shit, like they're actually human, right?
Mm.
Even like talking about non-marketing stuff with Justin Goff and Dan Ferrari, I was like, actually, these guys are just dudes like me. It's crazy. And we were just asking a lot of questions. Obviously, you have like this full week with those guys, and you have like a 4-hour hot seat, and you just leave like a new man. Like you've been just brainwashed, and like your chip has been replaced with something else. Like you're just a better version of yourself.
That's cool.
But that the only way to achieve that is by asking the right questions, because like you just said, it could make you feel stupid because when you're asking something, you're lowering your guard, right? Like you're showing yourself as vulnerable. Some guys don't want to ask the right questions, even when it comes to marketing stuff, because they don't want to be perceived as lesser than,
It's an ego thing
right?
sometimes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100% ego. Like how will this media buyer react? Will they trust me if I don't know how should I reduce cost per clicks on a Facebook ad campaign, right? Stuff like that. Picture like this, a quick exercise. Media buyer just tells you, "Hey, Matt, so we have this book a call funnel. Um, Sales team is saying that we don't have great quality, right? Like some people are just not showing up. Cost per book call, cost per show up is actually going up. We need help fixing this. All right, point blank. Then it's your turn. You could just say like, oh, cool. I'm just gonna write some ads and I'll
And then
send
we'll
it
fix
over
it.
your
Yeah,
way.
I'll,
Like,
I'll write some ads that talk to higher quality leads. Done.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. But then, if you really, really wanted to find the root cause, you would be asking, hey, Mr. Media Buyer, so what's your cost per show up? Not your cost per book call. What's your cost per show up? Oh, it's actually this number. Cool. What are they saying about quality? What about the email sequence after someone books a call? Is there an email sequence? What about the open rates? Are they hidden spam?
How many days do they have to book a call as well? All right. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
what if
Like
it's like,
calendar
yeah,
availability.
yeah.
That's another thing. So you see, like most copywriters would just immediately assume it's A, the ads, or B, the VSL,
Hmm.
when there's so much more that goes into play. If there's no email sequence going out after they book a call, they're probably just gonna forget. If you're letting them book a call 5, 7 days in advance,
Sharp rate's going down.
what are you
Doesn't
doing?
matter.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they're just gonna forget, right? Um, if you don't have a setter team being proactive and actually answering questions, just hyping people up, basically doing their job, right? Chances are people will struggle showing up to the call because they still leave with some natural objections. So it's not always ads, it's not always the VSL, and if you don't ask the right questions, you would never know this side of the story.
Hmm.
And it doesn't even matter how many ads you write or if you beat the control on the VSL side of things. So asking the right kind of questions is definitely the golden ticket to the chocolate factory. So
Yeah. Yeah. being curious, I think, makes it easier to ask questions, because when you're curious, you don't have something to lose. You're not coming from a place of gotta look a certain way. If you're just genuinely curious, then I think it's
Absolutely.
so
It just
much
makes
easier.
it
Yeah,
10 times
yeah,
easier.
yeah. So is that part of the process that you go through when you write copy today? Like you'll start your process. I mean, everybody starts the research, but do you like ask them
Yeah.
the team first, or like what's your process for getting into a project?
It really depends if you're talking about, like an agency type of engagement or if it's like a personal client.
Yeah.
Because in my experience, right, like when I was working with bad marketing, probably the best VSL I've written was for 10x Health. And in the agency world, you just don't get 3 weeks to write a VSL and make sure it's like, near perfect.
Mm.
If you're lucky and if you can afford to do that, like you would probably get 2 weeks tops before the CEO is gonna go to you like, hey Israel, so I know you're doing some great work, but we kind of need it now. Can you send it over? Sure. Um, so in those types of engagement, right? Like you just don't have the luxury to take that much time. So you would actually need the offer overview document if you have one, right? Like agencies usually have like this onboarding process where you have like the elevator pitch for the offer, past results. You actually have access to the media buyers running the offer and like historical data, right? So it should be much simpler understanding what's happening on the front end because you should have access to that in an agency is what I mean, right?
Right.
So asking the right questions, absolutely. Like, why are we even running this? Like, what's the expectation? That's
Mm.
a key type of offer. Like, what is the expectation for this project? Um, have they run something similar before? If they did, what was the result like? If it worked, why do you think it worked? If it didn't, what's your assumption? And you just basically have to become like this cynical dude, just asking every single type of dumb question to try to get closer to the truth, right? And then you can come to your own conclusion. Um, but that's for the agency route, like when you have so much more support. When you're a freelancer like I am right now, it's more like going with the flow. For instance, like I'm working with this big name in the health offer space, and they've never really hired copywriters outside of Dan Ferrari, for example, for
Mm.
VSLs. And they came to me. I was like, shit, they probably spelled my name wrong. Like they were looking for someone else. I don't know. No, it's actually me. So, um, and when I first came and talked to their marketing director, they were basically saying like, hey, this guy doesn't really follow scripts, but we know your VSLs are, you know, beautiful. So just
Nice.
have at it, and we'll try to find our way to, stay as closer as we can to the actual script. I was like, all right, cool. So what's this thing about? Oh, it's about cellular health. And I was like, okay, what is that? Right? Like in health offers, like you're allowed to be stupid because you're not a doctor.
Right,
And
right.
and you should be asking those types of questions because you want to be medically accurate, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really did help a lot, and I was like, these guys are so legit because they had like this 50 to 80 page document with Harvard research,
Damn. Nice.
Yale
That's
University
great.
studies, testimonials. It was everything, dude. Like everything was there. And as I was writing, I could just go back to the document, Command F, and go like, I don't know, cellular reset, or I don't know, thyroid, or mitochondria, stuff like that, looking for keywords, and I get like everything I needed was there. Um, so yeah, like you should be asking those questions, not selfishly, not only for you to start writing, but just to make sure that you're not having to like work twice, right? If you just go ahead and assume stuff, uh, probabilities of getting hit with like, hey, dude, we need to redo
Mm.
are just way exponentially higher. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's interesting. How do you balance that though? Because when you work with certain clients, and you want to do this onboarding process with them, it's a lot easier to get them to commit to like 2 to 3 hours if they've spent $10,000 to get this done or more, because they're like, okay, this is a big project. It's going to require my time. So that okay, we'll spend 2 hours diving deep. But let's say you close a 3K client. I've had a lot of copywriters tell me like, oh, the client like doesn't want to get an onboarding call, doesn't really want to do too much, upfront.
That's where you really have to learn when to say no. And that's something that most copywriters really don't get. I was even like myself, I was in that position not long ago. I had this call actually last week with Robert Bennett. He's also a Dan Ferrari mentee, great copywriter. And I was just talking about like 4 or 5 projects I have going on at the very moment. The lowest paying project from that batch is like 20K. So I was just thinking about numbers. And he was like, why do you really need to take all those clients? And I'm like, bro, it's money. What the fuck you talking about? Of course I do. And he's like, well, not really, right? Like, not really. And I'm not saying, he wasn't really saying that you shouldn't take them, but should you take them all at once is
Right.
what he's asking. And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, some of these clients are working with me for the first time. So part of me was like, I really want to put my best foot forward, make a great impression, and then they're just going to come back because this is just one project of like several projects they have in mind. And he's like, yes, absolutely. But right after that happens, what you should do is create some sort of wait list.
Yeah, I like that.
And I'm like, interesting. So how does that work? He's like, dude, you can just take deposits. Like, ask for a 5K deposit. Tell him like, hey, I'm actually booked up right now. I should be good to go with this project in like a month and a half, maybe a little sooner. But if you really want to, secure a spot for once it opens, like if you can wire me 5K, that's just a retainer, it's an escrow. Like you're not paying something for something, it's an escrow. And once we're ready, I'll just hit you up. And if you still want to move forward, I'll just take that piece of off of the actual final payment. And if not, I can just wire you the money back. All right, cool. You just have to be a copywriter about it and really like try to sell yourself as such. Because if you think about it, when you're in high demand, people won't be shocked or surprised that you're actually booked up. And in their eyes, it's going to be like, oh, this guy must actually be really, really good at what he does. And if I really want to pay him big money, then I have to wait. I'm okay with doing that. So you actually earn more trust as you go that route.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the 3K client versus the 30K client, like it really depends. Like if you really want a VSL that works, one thing that has really helped me is just hopping on a call with a guy who's going to record the VSL if they're not using a spokesperson. Because then I can pick up some patterns. Like, we can just talk about life. Tell me a fun story. Let me get to know you so I can pick up some of your mannerisms, right? Like the way you actually, express yourself. What kind of ideas make you excited, stuff like that.
Right.
So when a client doesn't really want to hop on a call with you for this type of stuff, then you got to ask yourself, like, is this an actual good client? Should I be doubling down in my relationship with this client? Because it's not only you working for them, it's you working with them and them working with you. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. And I would imagine that, I get the impression when I work with a client that doesn't want to do the upfront work, they don't truly understand the value of the copy. So, there are times where that's okay. In fact, I've had many clients that don't understand copy, and they've actually been very easy to deal with because they're not picky, and they just let me do my thing because it's out of their experience. But there are other times when they don't appreciate it properly, and they'll just kind of like have weird expectations about what can be and can't be done. Like I had a client that wanted to sell an offer that they had never really validated. And they were like, oh yeah, let's just write a couple emails. We've already got a sales page. Let's just write a couple emails. And then we got like 2 sales from the emails. And they're like, oh yeah, no, let's change the headline on the sales page.
Yeah, it's always the
I
headline.
was like, okay, I like that idea, like trying to be like super, super diplomatic about it. I'm like, that's a great idea, but let's just put it this way, right? If all that does, because realistically, that change of a headline is max going to boost this 10, 20%. I mean, maybe, I don't know, like it's going to be 10, 20%. It's not a bad headline right now. If we boost it 10%, we got 2 sales. Like,
Yeah.
like
Then
what is
you're
going
gonna
to
get
make
like
the,
4 sales.
you're gonna get 200% or 100%, 200% growth. Like that's what you wanted. This is not going to get you 100% growth. I'm not against it, but like we have to do something here. Like this is an offer. This is clearly something to do with this offer because we offered it to 30,000 people, and we got 2 sales. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that kind of thing. You again, like you got to look at the numbers. You see, it has nothing to do with the copy. That one, and it's interesting
And
because
just learning
yeah.
how to say no, dude, right? Like if now I bet like if you were to look things in hindsight, like you would probably go back and be like, no, this is not what we should do,
Oh, I did tell
right?
them that. I said, let's not do it. And they were like, yeah, well, we kind of need sales right now. I was like, look, I'm going to write the emails, but I'm telling you right now, this is not the play. And it wasn't the play.
Exactly.
And I think that's actually another thing, because I know a few copywriters, they will feel like they can't say no to their client. And I think that comes from confidence. You got to learn to walk away. But one thing that you can do, which is at least I found quite useful, is if you do take the project, what you tell them is what may happen and what you will do in
Yep.
that situation. And that way, when it actually does happen, because most likely it is going to happen, then it's not you explaining it away. Because a lot of copywriters, what they'll do is they'll write the VSL, it will flop, and then they'll explain why it flopped. But now it just sounds
Yep.
like justifying, right? But if you say beforehand, hey, we're going to write this VSL, we haven't surveyed the list, we haven't tested this marketing message, or what you guys in bad marketing call like the elevator pitch, right? We haven't tested this pitch. There's a good chance that even if this has high watch time and it's like got a good page, there's a good chance that this doesn't get conversions just because we don't know if this message is actually what our audience wants. So like, let's write it. But if it doesn't work up front, I would recommend we test some pitches first before we go ahead and like build an entire funnel around a pitch that we don't even know if our email list is interested in. Like, let's just write a couple emails to them and test it, right? And then if they still say, yeah, no, we're going to write this VSL, and then you write it and it doesn't convert so well, it's like, well, like I did tell you my perspective on this,
I
right? Like,
tell you. Yeah.
and then I think it's more powerful because then people will say, I mean, my clients, this has happened, one of my clients, they told me, oh no, we want to do a deadline email sequence. Like within 48 hours, everyone has to have bought. And that's it. Like it's, they buy or they don't buy because our data says that 91% of people buy within the first 24 hours or something. Therefore, there's no point in having follow up after that. I said, okay, I see that perspective. My gut tells me, based on this market, I've been talking to them for a while, I don't think price is the reason that they're not buying. So like, if you give them 48 hours on a discount and you push it, it's not the real reason that they're not buying. The reason they're not buying is because they don't know what the costs are of running the business and the expectations of running the business. It's not about the price of the program. And so anyway, they decided that they want to do it anyway. So, sometimes you just got to do what they ask you to do, right? So I wrote the funnel and it was like really, 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 really bad. Like the performance was terrible. So then they're like, okay, well, Matt, what should we do? What should we do, Matt? I was like, okay, well, how about we try this like objection handling sequence over 14 days? Way better, like way better, like 5 times better results. So sometimes you do have to let them kind of, I mean,
Come to the
yeah,
realization.
yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's also better to just fire people like that sometimes as well, right? Sometimes it's better to just fire clients like that. I bet you when you've worked with the agency, you've seen this a lot. Like some people come in there with such crazy expectations and then they don't get results, even with the best agency in the entire game,
Yeah, that happens, for the very best too. That's why I was really just talking about expectation setting.
Yeah.
Right? Like whether you should fire a client or where you should walk away, like how do you know when to do that, why you should do that, how to do it, right? Um Expectations, like it's in an agency world, in reality, you don't get that much of a say of who you end up working with, right? Why? Because the agency is paying you a salary. You get assigned to this client, whatever. If you're working like a pod type environment, there's a strategist, copywriter, copy chief, email copywriter, PM. And suddenly you wake up 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. It's like, hey, we have an onboarding call. tomorrow with this big client. They want to go live in the next 72 hours. We need to meet, strategize, and come up with a plan. All right, cool. What could happen is sales team tells them one thing, and then the marketing team realizes, no, this is not possible, at least not in the timeline these guys were sold, right? In the next 60 days, you're going to see numbers like this because we're going to do this, 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 and that. Then we find new information, or we hop on a call with the owner of this company or whatever, and we realize they've never run the offer. It's brand new. These expectations that were set are not healthy because, again, marketing is not linear. This is not math, as in 2 times 2 equals this, right? Like, it doesn't work that way. I really wish it was that easy, right? Part of me wishes that. The other part of me is like, no, it would be that boring.
Well, if it's that easy, then there's also like,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I
it just
like
loses
the
value.
I like the competitive and difficulty. you
Oh
know,
yeah,
it's fun. Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's why I write mostly for like health related stuff. It's like I like the thrill of working with something that I really don't fully understand. It pushes me to actually put some effort. But in expectation setting, that's key, and that's in the agency world. When you're working with a freelance type of client, you have to put on your big boy pants, right? Because you could be blindsided by the fact that they're going to pay you, I don't know, dude, like 10, 15, 20K for a VSL. Maybe depends on, how you structure your pricing. And saying no to 20K is quite difficult,
Yeah.
especially as a freelancer. But then you have to think that in this industry that we work with, relationships are everything, and your reputation really, really matters. So you really want to make sure that you make a good impression. Some clients would actually respect you more for saying no, because it's something that Ashton Shanks taught me while we were working on human media, is that we should be seen as the best steward for our partner's money. We'd never call the client a client. They're a partner because we're in this together.
I like that.
That small tweak, that small change in perspective really goes a long way. So how would a partner actually behave in this situation? Well, Matt, you know what? Like, this VSL funnel you want to run for the email dojo, this is what may happen. This is what could happen. This is what will happen, right? Like levels of expectation setting. Might, could, will. What might happen is 50-50 chance it's going to work because we should be seeing numbers like this worst case scenario, this in a midterm scenario, this in the best case scenario, right? What could happen is the quality may look like this over the past 60 days, so I recommend testing this for 90 days with this daily spend, blah, 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 right? And what will happen is we're going to be effectively testing new ways to drop the cost per click, drop your CPL. With your VSL, I'm going to be super nitpicky and granular on play rates, engagement rate, retention rate, actual cost per book call, quality. But that's a long-term project, right?
Yeah.
If I don't have that in mind, first off, you're not ready for charging more than 20K. That's the number one thing. Why? Because taking 20K right now may actually, annihilate your chances of ever working with that client again. And number two, you need to get more reps. Okay, like the more meticulous you are, the better. And sometimes a client, when they see all that, the immediate thought is like, dude, I don't know if I'm ready for this. That means we shouldn't be working together.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just gonna burn 20K,
Yeah.
right? And I don't want that. We're a partner. We're partners. So yeah,
It's a
I
good
had to turn
perspective.
down some
Yeah.
big projects. Yeah, I had to turn down big projects because of that, and ultimately it's for the best,
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes. I think the challenge can be when you are not used to that kind of money, because like we talked about earlier, like marketing is not linear. Growth as a freelancer is also not that linear either. It's like you could be at 3K a month and then you have 3 phone calls within a month because you were featured in a group or something, and now you're suddenly at 12K. like, or 15K a
Yeah.
month recurring, right? So like you could just 4x your income within 30 days. And now you're not used to playing with this kind of money. So it's very hard to say no to $20,000, which was like more than half of last year's income, for example, right?
Yeah.
I actually remember there was a client I was working with in 2023, and I wouldn't say it was a massive deal. It was $12,000 a month retainer, which is pretty good, So I was pretty happy with the workload, and it was good stuff. But they were not allowing me to do my role without like I was not being given, like I wasn't set up for success. The role was not set up for success because the leadership team wouldn't let me really be the leader that they needed me to be in that role to actually get the work done. Like what I would need to do in that role as a marketing lead would be obviously to, find the people, get the funnel done, get this done, just get it done. Like we don't need to sit
Yeah.
and discuss it for weeks. We have to implement, like we can talk about the overall vision on the I'm getting a little bit detailed in this explanation, but basically like they wouldn't let me do my thing, right? So even though it was a good client, even though they had a good offer, even though the marketing team was actually pretty good, the people that were reporting to me were pretty good, I wasn't set up for success because I couldn't actually execute on anything without loads of approval, prior approval, and just so I just said, look, like I like you guys, but it's not going to be a fit long term. So I let go of the retainer because I knew that what would happen would be they were not going to get results, and it would hurt me because I would be the one carrying that whole department, and the KPIs would be on me, and I'd be, oh, Matt, like
Yeah.
you're not getting us result. I'm like, like so it would look terrible on me, and my reputation
Yeah.
and my results and how I take my client work is it's too important for me to be the failure like that, especially since they weren't enabling me to do what I actually needed to do, right? So yeah, your
Yeah.
reputation's so much more important. And I've seen a few people, they'll blow themselves up. Like one guy I worked with, he closed a like 5 million YouTube fitness channel back in
Ooh.
2020. Big guy, big name. This was a long time ago. It was back in 2020. I was coaching him, and he got the client, but he just wanted to do it he just wanted to do it like a specific way. He just had it in his head that this is how the business should do it. And I said, let's be receptive. Let's follow their process because they're established. And he lost the client. And I think that was like a crossroad in his life. Like that, if he had got that client and like locked in with that client 5 years ago, today he would probably be one of the top health copywriters in the entire game. Like easily be
Yeah.
commanding $30,000 for VSL projects, 5% royalty deals. Like, you know, but so it is really that important that you choose the right business, and when you do actually work with the big businesses that you can actually deliver. Because maybe what he should have done is maybe he should have just said like, hey, I'm not ready to do that kind of work with you guys. Let's first get this small project right, and then he just pays
Yep.
himself better, right? But instead he tried to do it all, and yeah, it's now like you zoom out, right? And I have one more thing on this that I've been talking to some clients about. I'd say like, well, what is the 5,000? Let's just use 5,000 because that's, I think, a lot of copywriters, they want to close their first 5K gig, first 5K premium
Mhm.
client, right? What is the $5,000 really worth? Not that much in comparison to the result that you get. Not
Yeah.
it's not as valuable as the result that you get for the business. So if you close a 5K client and you make them with your copy, you help them make $1 million, $2 million. That brag is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars in future business that you can close by using it in your application or your cold email or whatever, right? So that 5K up front is like, yeah, it's great, but it's not really that important.
Mm.
It's all that money that all the results, the result is more important than the money, right? So again, it's like that 5K, 10K, 20K deals, like it's not worth it. It's the real money is what you can say, what people say about you, the people you know, yeah, that kind of stuff. I'm totally on
Yeah,
the same page.
it's about investing. It's investing in having like a good relationship.
Yeah.
Ultimately with your customers, right? Like the thing with going freelance versus having an agency role, right? It's like in an agency role, you would potentially, I don't know, get 10 years worth of experience crammed in a 2, 3 year run working with
Mm.
the same agency, right? Compared to freelance work. However, with the freelance work, you have way more flexibility and you have more freedom to, negotiate terms of the actual agreement with your client. right? So it's more like 50-50. I hear you, what you want to do. What about if we try something more like this, or what if we meet in the middle? However, there are things that are, at least in my eyes, they're non-negotiables, right? If you really want to work with me, like number one is I always take 50% of the full project project pay up front, right? Final 50% once I deliver the final piece of copy and you approve it. Okay? Not when the project's live, not when your editors are done editing the VSL, not when your CRM, blah, blah, blah. No, because those things are none of my business, right?
Yeah.
So I should get paid once my involvement is pretty much fulfilled. The other thing is, I want to really make sure that we test this properly. Because, I'm a hopeless romantic, dude. Like, my VSLs are my babies. And I really, really want to see them grow up and thrive and go to college, get married, have babies, all that, right?
Yeah.
And if you're just planning to pay, dude, like, I don't know, like, I'm quoting people like 20, 25, 30K, depending on, the scope. And you're not really going to test this properly, and you're just going to put this inside your drawer and forget about it for like 6 months, like, then I do not want to be a part of that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I really want to get real market feedback fast so I can actually get better. But yeah, like saying no sometimes actually saves you a lot of, potential trouble and stress. And we often think that we have to say yes to every single client that comes our door because they're waving like, 30 G's right in front of you. And it's not what you say yes to, it's what you're saying no to in life, in business. If I say yes to this 30K VSL project, will I have enough time at the end of my day just to go for a walk with my 2 dogs and my beautiful wife without talking about work? Probably not. Okay. Number two, if I take this VSL project and, I'm just gonna skip the gym 3 times out of 5 days that I should go to the gym, right? Like, for this next 2 weeks, is it worth it? Yes, no. Could I be just doubling down when one of my clients, optimizing their VSLs so I can get paid recurring, or, my royalties actually look better? Is it worth it, or should I take this new client? Yes or no? So it's not what you always. It's not about how this 30K impact my life immediately, but how it's going to impact my life in the longer run.
Yeah.
For early stage copywriter, even not even talking about 30 G's, dude, but if you're watching at home and you really want to close your first 10K copy client, I promise, hand to heart, right? It's not difficult. Actually, closing a 10K client could be 10 times easier than closing a 5K client or a 3K client, because they have their stuff figured out. They know what they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
You just really have to, live up to that expectation. Yet, you really have to be careful on who you decide to pick and work with. Because that 10K client is like baptism or trial by fire. First time, if you do it well, you earn your spot. Now you have more of a curriculum, or you unlock like this new sheer level of confidence to go ahead and find the next one, and so on and so forth. But you don't want to get burned, right? So you just got to be careful. Like, think about how this actual working relationship could impact my life on the midterm, long term, and is it really worth it, right? So yeah, dude, I'm not, sometimes I still remember this though. I had to say no to probably one of the biggest coaches in self-help. Their team came to me looking for some VSL work, and I was like, dude, working with these guys don't seem that fun. And I'm like 1 month away from going on my honeymoon trip to Italy with my wife. It's like, man, it's like, do I really want this kind of trouble in my life? Yeah, I'll skip.
Yeah.
Project scope was like 35K. So I could have been 35K richer, but bro, I could have gotten divorced in, like, I don't
Yeah.
know, 2 months. So no.
What is that relationship worth to you so much more?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
a good the bullet that you dodged there. That just sounds like, even just hearing the way you say it, I can already sound like I got an idea of the kind of client and the kind of expectations that they're gonna have on you. Yeah, you know what the thing is though, is especially if you're watching this from home and you're thinking like, oh, I can't say no to a 5K gig. When you create space, something always fills it, right? So if you say no to that 4K client, you could be 1 or 2 weeks away from a better deal. And what I've often found, what I've often found is like, when you get good at closing clients, when you have a better reputation, when you've got experience in the game, in the early days, it's usually like, should I take this gig or not? Because there's
Hmm.
just one gig in front of you. But when you have relationships with people and referrals and opportunities and like a wait list, like you've been talking about, Israel, it's like, it's no longer, should I take this or not? It's, okay, I've got 2 gigs
When?
here. No, it's not even that. It's, I've got 2 gigs here. Which one should I go with? Because that it's a completely different frame. It's like, should I take it or not? It's like, oh, I really need the money. Whereas like, if you got 2 gigs in front of you, it's like, the money's not a problem. Either way, you're going to make the money. Like, which kind of business do you want to be working with? Suddenly people will make a
Yeah.
better call. And then again, of course,
That
like,
that's actually like a great hack, right? Like
yeah,
if you think about it, next time you're dealing with a potential client, ask yourself, if I had this dude and this other hypothetical dude offering the same amount of cash for the
yeah.
same scope of work, what kind of questions would you ask them to make sure you're making the right pick?
Ooh, that's a really
Because
good idea.
people
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like
Mm.
copywriters often forget, like, you're not the only one who's getting vetted. You should be vetting them too.
Nice.
Like, stop
Yeah.
thinking that you're working for them. You're working with them.
Mm.
It goes two ways, right? Like, even in the agency world, like, people think that because of this account, got placed in front of you, you're just like doomed and nothing else you can do. Like, it's this or the highway. And I promise it's not that inflexible. Like, I was lucky enough to always have great bosses, at
Mm.
least. Like, with bad marketing, there was Ashton and Eddie Malouf, great people across the board. With adspend.com, there was Brian. Uh, I'm still close to the guy, and every single time I spoke and said, like, hey, I just don't really feel like getting involved with this client because I am not fully aligned with what he is preaching. There's
Oh,
some controversial figures and stuff like that. I'm not gonna put my pen for sale for this guy. Like, I respect if you guys want his money and whatnot, but I just do not want to be involved with that. My values won't allow it. They're gonna be like, okay, cool, no problem. Move on and to the next project. Perfect. So when you're a freelancer, you actually have more of a say like that. So
yeah,
it's
it's
just
nice.
a blatant no. Like, nope, I do not want to work with you, and that's it. But there's this other guy, I know he's actually very good. I can just send you his way. So
Mm, mm.
yeah, yeah, it's saying no. That's an art. The art of saying no. Actually, there's a book about that. It's called The Art of Saying No. Big recommendation. But yeah.
I think you got to have a lot of clarity on what you want to say yes to also, because if you don't really know what a good client looks like, or you don't know what kind of clients you want to be writing for, then it's not so easy to look at this deal in front of you and be like, yeah, I mean, it's like, if you've only ever had one client, then you don't really know. You think this is a great deal. Oh, I can't believe they want to give me 4 or 5 grand a month. It's amazing. What would you
Mm-hmm.
say? Well, actually, in your current work, like, I know you're writing a lot of VSLs now. I know you're working with some big names and people that want to put a lot of money behind their VSLs. Like, what kind of business models and what type of people do you currently serve and help?
Yeah, it's right now I'm having more fun writing with health offers in general. Some of these guys, they run stuff with affiliates, for supplements, mostly coming from referrals. Then there's other guys like spending north like 5-6 milli on Facebook ads a month, so my VSLs could get actually a lot of traffic and I can get real market feedback real fast.
Mm,
And then there's other guys that just want to dry test an offer and they really want like a good asset as a foundation for the whole funnel. And that's actually like a great way to connect like this whole conversation to the VSL secrets, call it that way, because there are tiers, right, to those clients. There's this dude who's, I can't really say their name because I'm not sure if they're gonna get pissed off. Like, hey, we signed an NDA. Like, yeah, but they're spending a lot of money, and I get real feedback real fast, right? Great client, great values. I have good friends in the company. I'm having fun. Then second client, they're an affiliate, mostly affiliate traffic driven, direct response agency, and they hire me for specific projects for supplements, right? Great. I have fun and I get real market feedback real fast too. Then there's other clients like, some agencies you wanted to, delegate some VSL projects, and they're usually like 10-minute VSL. So, dude, that's probably going to take me like 30 minutes. Sure, it's 10K. Nice. Right. You make
Nice.
money while you sleep, bro. um, and you also get feedback real fast. Um, but depends on what kind of end result you want and what stage you're in your life too, because
Mm.
people don't really talk about that. I I mean, I've been married for a year. I have two dogs. My wife started working recently, and I just don't have that much responsibility outside of my little family and the people that I look after, in Venezuela, Colombia, and wherever my family is at the moment. Um, so I'm cool with taking like longer term projects and just putting my head down for quite some more time. But that may change, right? Because in the next 2, 3 years, like I probably could have like one, two babies, and I'm just not at that moment of my life. Like maybe I just want to focus on 2 to 3 clients, paying me 30K each, and I'm just gonna go deep, deep, deep inside their business and really put my most of my time there. Um, so you actually have to balance that too. Like it's not always the money, it's where you're at in life at the minute,
Yeah.
and who you actually pay attention to, that matters too a lot. Like most of the people and with email dojo, that probably happens too. I am willing to bet that most of those guys, they're younger copywriters, right? Probably like what, in their early 20s up until like late 20s, early 30s. And demographics could vary. Some guys maybe in their early 40s or whatnot. um
It's
but
pretty accurate, by the
mostly
way.
they're,
Yeah. Between 25 to 35 usually. There's a couple young guys, but 25 to 35, yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
And that usually comes with some safe assumptions. Like most of these guys probably won't have kids. Some of these guys would probably won't be married, or they probably just got married, right?
Hmm.
And that comes with some levels of responsibility. So think about where you are in life, and what, when you're saying yes to something, how is that going to benefit you in the mid and long term? In my case, with what I have right now, dude, I'm having fun. I have a wait list, so I don't have to stress about it. I can just focus on doing what I love the most, which is VSLs, and that's it,
Yeah.
right? Um, but yeah, I'm having a good time right now with those guys, especially because I get access to data, and then I would know. And this is probably like the wildest, reveal. Um, some of my assumptions about VSL data were pretty correct, and they were not that different from when I was working with the agencies as I'm working as a freelancer right now. Like they're universal principles, and it's actually pretty fun and easy to optimize a VSL once you know how to ask the right questions. So see, like we started talking about like asking the right questions, and now it's about data. This is a long form VSL for you at home. Have fun.
It's fun. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I've shared this with the young guys, right, in the dojo, right? Because there's a couple of them. I mean, one guy, 17, actually a few are like even younger than 18. And Johnny, actually, I'll bring it to Johnny because Johnny and I were talking. Actually, he's here right now. He's at my spot,
Hmm.
and he's just probably taking a call or working upstairs. But I sat down with Johnny, maybe a month ago or 6 weeks ago, and I said to him, you're young, right? You don't really have any, you're not like married or have like crazy responsibilities. You're in a really good spot right now to double down on the skill and just work really, really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
and build up that like internal data set, because there's a lot of anecdotal data that you can build up in your mind that gives you better judgment on stuff, right? I've been able to get that because of working with over 100 people privately now. So I see what it looks like to get clients from all these different perspectives, from all these different people with all these different personalities. You build up like a subconscious data set. And something that a lot of people, I remember, like my copy chief said to me, called it golden gut. I'm not sure if that's something that you guys,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
golden gut, you just kind of like know certain things at some point after you've got enough experience. That's what I told Johnny, and he's on the same page. He was already doing that, but just even more so, like, you're taking the right action by doing as much as you can, getting as much results for your clients, not worrying so much about taking your income from where it is to double. Like, the money money will come later. You're at an age where you just need to build up so much data and build up so much experience and so much and the right connections. But I wouldn't give the same advice to somebody that's 36 and has got 2 kids,
Yeah,
because it's like
absolutely.
you don't have you don't have the luxury of going to bed at 2 a.m. every night and waking up at 7 a.m. to take the kids to school. Like, your body's just not gonna cope like a 19-year-old, and also your family's not going to be too happy with that either. So like,
Yeah.
priority number one is get one good high paying client that buys your time back so you can get rid of low paying clients, and then we focus on step 2, right? Get the time back. So
Absolutely.
depends on where you're at, right? So I like that. But to get back to the VSL stuff, you got to ask the right questions. You got to look at the right data. You've said data a lot of times. You really do like data. I could tell
I'm a huge geek,
you
dude.
really like data. It's interesting because I mean, VSLs, yeah, VSLs, yeah, it's interesting. I like with email, it's like you got open rates and you got click through rates. I suppose you could create a few more data sets if you want, like, total sent to total sales. But VSLs, there's so much stuff you can look at, right?
Bro, it's like a tiny universe because if we were talking about VSLs in isolation, right, you have number one, you have play rates, you have engagement rate, you have this, I call it like retention rate, but essentially is this comparison graph where you see drop offs or, when people actually start bouncing off the VSL. So it could be a bounce rate, right?
Mm,
And finally, the conversion rate. That is for the VSL alone.
mm.
Yet, whatever happens before someone clicks to watch the VSL is also impacting some of the key metrics that you really should be paying attention to, right? For instance, some people just often forget that play rates are not only about how many people click to watch the VSL, but the fact that before that happens, something else happened. It could be an opt-in page, or it could be an ad if you're running traffic from ad to opt-in to VSL, like classic setup,
Yep.
or ad to VSL page. If you don't consider whatever happened before, then you won't be really in a good position to make adjustments,
Mm.
if you ask like most copywriters, like, all right, how would you improve this VSL page? And if they're not asking what play rates, they don't really know much what they're
Yeah, that's
doing
interesting. That is
because
interesting.
everything that happens on that VSL page, creates an expectation. And
Sure.
when you think about VSLs, and this is more like a rhetorical question before I continue talking about this, but how would you define the job of a VSL? Some people would say, oh, it's booking calls, or hey, it's selling something, or hey, it's hyping people up, or addressing objections, this, that, that. And they're not fully wrong. But my current mentor, Andrew Mulligan, he said something that really stuck with me. It's like a VSL is nothing more than a warm-up mechanism.
Oh. Mm.
True, it's a warm-up mechanism. When you think about it, like someone needs to watch a thing, you need to address some common objections. Your lead or your hook starts with raw emotion and power, right? Then you go to the body, which is the logical element of the VSL. You disclose the problem behind the solution, why you may have tried, why it didn't work, the big reveal, right? Like, this is the actual thing that's going to help you do XYZ, and we call it, boom, like this mechanism.
Mm.
Then you dumb it down, right? Like, it's like this tiny little cell that's inside your brain is shutting your ability to focus off like a switch, right? So what happens when you get a power outage? The switch doesn't work. Doesn't even matter if you flick it up or down, it won't work. So what are we gonna do with this tiny little pill? Is we gonna bring the power back onto your bodies, like that kind of stuff,
Yeah, I
okay?
love it. I love it.
So it's a lot about hyping people up, addressing objections, but that is right, like an amalgamation of things that could
Mm.
be just defined as a warm-up mechanism. And if a copywriter just gets tasked with like, hey, dude, we need to improve this VSL page, and if he's not asking, hey, what's the play rate or what's the quality of the the final lead, how would you know what to do? How would you know you need to tweak the headline, right? For example, or
Yeah.
how would you know you need to add more elements to the VSL page, or remove some elements, or change the thumbnail, or this or that? So asking the right questions definitely points you in the right direction. But yeah, VSLs, when it comes to data, it's not only play rate, engagement rate, retention rate, conversion rate. It's also what's happening before someone watches the VSL. It's like a trailer to a movie.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That makes a lot of sense. Like thinking about, I haven't really thought about play rate as much, right? Because because you write the VSL copy, you deliver the VSL copy, but sometimes that funnel doesn't fall on you, or you don't think it falls on you. But it's like, actually, yeah, like if you send 1,000 people to a VSL page and there's only X amount of play rate, then you've already lost so many people that you could have actually got that VSL to sell, right? Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, like
And like,
in many ways, with VSLs, like specifically play rates, if you go from an opt-in to the VSL page, that play rate should be in a good day, like we could be in front of like 65 to 70% play rate,
yeah.
right? I've had situations where I've gone at like 92, 94% play rates, which is awesome, but that's rare, okay? Like it's not the rule, it's the exception. But on average, like you should see from an opt-in to the VSL page, roughly like 60 to 70%. Okay. That changes when you go to mass market, because when there's no opt-in and you're driving traffic straight from the ad to the VSL page, there's less commitment. Okay. I didn't
Lower play
have to
rate.
like type I didn't have to type my name, give you my email, think about what I really want to learn. I'm not that invested. I could be window shopping, so play rate's gonna go down by nature. Okay. And in that case, in a good day, like you could be in front of like 30 to 40% play rates. And that is if the page is fully optimized and you're creating the right type of expectation with the ad. Okay?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's so many little pieces. I like it. It's fun. With opt-ins, then you almost have a thing of like, well, should we run this without an opt-in page? Because you could compare the numbers and you could say like, well, when we have the opt-in page, only 10% actually opt in. So let's say we have 1,000 people. If we got 10% opt-in page, let's just say hypothetically that that is a good opt-in. I don't know, the mass market, very niched offer.
Yeah.
Okay, 1,000, 10% opt-in rate. Okay, cool. So we got 100 people. Now they watch the VSL, the play rate 60, 70. Okay, so we got 70 people watch it. Versus, okay, we got 1,000 people. Let's drop the opt-in page, and we actually get a play rate of 20%. But isn't that data slightly higher? Because now you got 200 people, right? So it's like, maybe, right? I don't know. But then you also got to look at all the numbers on the other side at the end. It's like maybe the people
Yeah.
that watch it, those 200 people, they're lower commitment people as well. Even though they're still interested, they're still intrigued by the big secret. They're not actually committed buyers. And then you end up having lower quality leads. So there's like all these little games all the way through the funnel. And
Bro,
yeah,
that's what makes it fun,
it
right?
is
Like
interesting.
there's
Yeah, I like it.
endless possibilities. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But
You just have to be able to communicate with the team that's actually building that stuff out. Because I imagine like most of the time, you're not when you're hired to write copy, you have to set that expectation up front that you want to work closely with that team. Is that, hey, I want to be
absolutely.
a part of that process, because I don't think many copywriters do that. I'll tell you, like you mentioned earlier that you want to learn media buying, and I chatted with a media buyer recently. He's done, he's spent millions for his clients, and he says there's like very few people, very few copywriters that actually know media buying. Very, very few. Like it's an
Bro,
exception.
we're a rare breed.
Yeah,
Like
right. So that's
probably the brightest copywriter that's not really a copywriter anymore, right? Like that would be Lee. Like this interview is gonna go live, and where he's one of my best friends, so he's probably gonna be like, "Oh, so you were just talking nice things about me on camera." It's like, fuck you, I hate you. But he's brilliant when it comes to that. Like he outside of being a great copywriter, he really taught me how to think as a marketer, and
Mm,
that comes with embracing the fact that you need to understand media buying. Like it also really helped that Ashton Shanks was my first boss in a big agency, and he is a savage media buyer. He was the lead media buyer at Traffic and Funnels, so he
mm-hmm.
would probably know a few things about like Facebook traffic, right? And then with adspend.com, there was Brian, right? And he was lead media buyer for Dean Graziosi. So he was spending a lot of money on YouTube ads. So he would teach me about YouTube ads. So two great teachers in such a short um, time spent. And yeah, it's like having like a superpower. If you're a copywriter and you can speak that media buying language, it's like, bro, it's like living in Latin America and speaking English, right? Think about it that way.
That's cool.
Superpower.
Tell me a bit about the YouTube ads. You mentioned earlier that we were going to talk about it later. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like so there's a lot of talk going on whether, like Facebook ads are better than YouTube ads or if it's the other way around. And, there's actually not a clear answer because there's no answer, there's no beef, and there shouldn't be a final answer because there isn't.
mm,
Um, Facebook is, first off, like I really like Facebook ads better than YouTube ads, overall enjoyment, right?
mm,
But when it comes to like the actual state of the market and how people interact with other people on the platform, with YouTube and Facebook, you have to understand that number one, Facebook is more community driven. Okay, you can interact with people with more ease.
mm,
With YouTube, you don't really have that closeness. Okay, it's more like isolation.
mm.
With Facebook, your kind of traffic or the kind of traffic that you get, they're often more like this doom scroll state. They're constantly just, checking stuff out. Oh, that's a cool meme. React, haha, stuff like that. They're not really looking forward to learning something new. They're just in procrastination and constant procrastination. With YouTube on the other side, what you often found is number one, isolation. These guys are, Googling, not Googling, but, typing something in the search box and, watching whatever. But they're usually driven by this desire of learning something and being entertained. Okay? With Facebook, you don't really get that. So higher quality traffic comes from YouTube. It's not that simple, right? Because even though they do have this interest for learning something and being entertained, their attention spans could actually be shortened, right? Talking about how people behave on the platform. You, Matthew Volkwin, don't behave the same way on Facebook that you do on YouTube or the way you do on LinkedIn or TikTok or whatever, right?
Mm.
So the ad should be different. Not even talking about like market awareness, sophistication, or cold or warm traffic. Just talking about the platform. Each platform primes different types of content, so your ad should mimic or give the platform what it wants. Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
With YouTube, right, in opposition to Facebook, when you look at Facebook, you get, I don't know, CTR all, which means or measures the stop scrolling ability of your ad. CTR all equals how many people stop the scroll. Unique outbound CTR means how many people actually click and go to the next page, right?
Mm.
Then you have your cost per click, then you have your CPMs. Some people will say CPMs matter, some people say they don't. Irrelevant for this conversation, but when it comes to actual copy, what you should be paying attention to when it comes to Facebook is cost per click, CTR all, unique outbound CTR all. CTR, sorry.
You want to
Why?
see if
Because
people are
if I
stopping.
know,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
because
Go ahead. Yeah.
let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's go and do this quick exercise. And so with CTR all right here, scroll stopping ability,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If I get 2% here, and the discrepancy to unique outbound CTR is more like, I don't know, 2% plus 0.80, what does that tell you? Quick exercise. How many people stop the
Oh, big
scroll? How
big
many
drop
people
off.
click? there's a huge drop off, right?
They thought it was
So
interesting, and then they lost interest somewhere along the way, and they said, this is not for me, subconsciously.
exactly,
Yeah.
because your Facebook ad is structured with a hook, with a body, with a CTA. You have a headline, you have a creative image or, video, whatever it is, but it's like a Lego block.
Yeah.
So your CTR all is going to measure your headline, your thumbnail if there's a video, your creative image, or your hook, okay? Because that's what people see in the first 10% of your ad, okay? If I want to fix my CTR all, that's what I would have to attack. But in this situation, if my unique outbound CTR is that low, that means there's something wrong with the body of the copy or the body of the video, if there's a video ad, or the CTA, okay? So if I want to get those numbers up, why would I need to write a full new ad if I know my hook, my headline, and I don't know, my thumbnail are working?
Yeah.
No,
Right.
you can just leave that, right? Just don't touch it. Create a new body and a new CTA. Run the same ad, see how it does. Okay? Boom, now you have 2% versus 1.3 or 1.4, which is fine. All right, that's what we want. On the other way around, if you find that your ad has like, I don't know, like a 0.80 CTR all and a 0.5, right, unique outbound, what you really have to do in that case is, all right, I need a new hook, I need a new headline, or I need a new static image. Or every single time you really just want to double or improve your unique outbound CTR, you test new hooks, you test new headlines, you test new static image. Because by nature, if more people stop the scroll, the chances of more people clicking, they go exponentially up. They are just higher, right? So if you're a copywriter and you don't understand that, right, then you're doomed to just writing new copy week after week after week, because you want to know what these metrics are telling you. And just by understanding what those two metrics mean, and you ask that to your media buyer, bro, they're going to love you, number one. Because it's like, Jesus, finally, we're speaking the same language, okay? And number two, you're gonna have an easier time writing copy and way more fun, because now you understand how it works really in Facebook traffic. With YouTube, on the other side, you have view rates and you have CTR, right?
Yeah.
Back at ad spend, the way that I would measure that would be, you have in-stream view rate, which is, when you're actually watching the video, your ad comes up. What you really want to measure is how much people go through the hook, meaning without clicking that skip button, and end up watching the full thing. So you can measure, if people watch 50 to 75% of the whole video before they click, because, it's basically like video based. But the most important element of a YouTube ad is the hook. No questions, right? If I don't watch the hook, I won't watch the rest of the ad, because that's how the platform works. If I just move on to the next thing and I don't go through the first 5, 10, 15 seconds, then I'm cooked. My ad won't work. What you really want, and this is, subject to probably like a different conversation, but it depends on how much money you're spending, is at least a 25% view rate. If you get that, that means your hook with YouTube is working. Now, what you may find is like your CTR is not that hot. It's like some YouTube media buyers or YouTube agency owners would go and say, like, if your CTR is lower than 1%, the ad doesn't work. Lie. That's a lie. Why? Because by nature, you're not making money out of clicks. You're making money out of closing deals. So why would you care if you get a 0.8 CTR if that ad is your actual most powerful ad in terms of revenue?
It's not about the
right?
clicks. It's about how many of those clicks are leads. Qualified
Exactly,
leads.
and
Yeah.
how many of those leads actually end up buying from you. So it works that way. But with VSLs, they work very well for both platforms. The thing is, like, you preface them differently from each platform. And in some cases, you may want to even test like different headlines for your opt-in or your VSL page, depending on what's your winning ad or what kind of winning angle you found by spending money on Facebook or YouTube. Because congruency is king in this case. You can't be saying that you're going to lose 50 pounds on Facebook on your ad, and then you go to the opt-in page and goes like, hey, here's how you can, I don't know, like get a thinner waist or something like that. Like,
Mm,
hold on, we're talking about a specific
yeah.
number right here. What happened here? So, yeah.
That's one of the biggest things I've learned over the last year, like more than ever before, because the market, what the market acts and reacts to, you need to stick with. You know, if they say, if they click something, or let's say that, like the biggest thing, I mean, with email, because I've been doing a lot of email, you know, and when people opt in to an opt-in page, I want to know what the opt-in page is that list was built on. I want to know what the headline was, because if that headline, like perfect example, let's say it's an Airbnb BizOp offer.
Hmm.
If that opt-in page says something like, want to know how to make $5,000 to $10,000 every single month without owning any real estate,
Which is
then
not compliant, but yeah.
right, just let's say that
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah,
page,
it's
right?
just for
Yeah,
funs and jiggles, yeah.
yeah. So let's say it's something else, where it's like how to get paid from other people's properties without, you know, like something like that, right? Maybe that's a bit more compliant,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so then they opt in. Then your email list is constantly talking about Airbnb. I didn't say Airbnb on the opt-in page. So you're going to get like 15 to 20% open rates like automatically, because they didn't opt in to hear about Airbnb. They opted in to hear about how to make money without owning any properties. So
Yep.
like there's an instant disconnect there. And like once I started to see that more and more, when I look at subject lines now, it's like, you know, you assume that the whole market, because it's BizOp, the whole market's particularly interested in that topic. It's like not necessarily. They're interested in the message. They're interested in the message that you put on that main page. And if you don't
They're
talk to that
interested in
message,
the outcome.
yeah,
It's always about the outcome. And BizOp, like I've been writing a lot of BizOp recently. It's well, lowering that entry barrier, but always making the problem or the genesis of the problem coming from somewhere else.
yeah,
Like a good example of that would be like, you know, your Airbnb example. This tiny little stock from this, you know, small company is about to blow up in the next 6 months, right?
yeah, yeah,
The thing is, this company is about to release a, I don't know, let's use Apple for example. Like this Apple stock's gonna blow up or get like a 200% ROI in the next 6 months because they're about to release the world's most powerful chip ever known to mankind. But there's a huge problem and you won't expect why, right? Like in China, you know, there's factory workers went on strike
hmm,
and they don't have enough manpower to actually support the production of this new chip, which got them delayed for 6, maybe 12 months. And that creates an opportunity for you because now you can buy an Apple stock for X, and in the next 6 to 12 months, it could be 2, 3, 4, 5 times higher, and you're going to be swimming in cash, right? So the problem is not yours, but you can do something about it and get a benefit,
yeah, yeah,
right? So that's basically like BISOP in a nutshell. But what you're saying is right. Like it's basically congruency too. Like
yeah.
people want
That's
the
it. Yeah,
outcome. And you try to use Airbnb as a superstructure because people know what Airbnb is. But what most people don't really get is that some concepts actually carry some negative opinions all along. Like when you say make money with Audible's app, all right, I don't really know what Audible is, but like I make money by selling ebooks, right? Oh, cool. But when you say, hey, want to make money with Amazon FBA, dude, people have heard about Amazon FBA and most people think it's a scam, right? So it doesn't even matter if you're legit or not. Like
yeah.
that superstructure carries some negative connotations,
Hmm,
and it's
hmm.
not congruent with what brought me here. So yeah, absolutely, good example.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, we could go into all kinds of conversations about messaging and about congruency in VSLs, and I'd love to chat a lot more. So I'll have to have you back. But until then, how can people reach out to you and learn the secrets and you know, see what you're up to?
Yeah, so you can just find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, but normally for coaching or VSL inquiries, I just take stuff through my email, which is Israel at fdcconsulting.com. Just gonna put it here in the chat box so editors can do their sweet magic.
Just
And
do the thing on the
honestly,
screen. This one is like it's like
boom, 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 right here. It's right here.
it's right there.
See it?
Yeah.
But something very important to note is, I mean, this is gonna sound weird. I don't always really charge people for giving advice, because I really like helping, especially like younger copywriters. Because in my case, up until I met Lee and Milligan and Dan Ferrari and all that, I'd really never had a mentor. So if there's a way that I can give back to this craft, this skill that changed my life and my family's life, like, I would do it. And it really doesn't make sense like charging someone 2-3K for 2 hours of my time if I know I'm gonna make a big difference. So small deposits, and for the Lord to welcome me in his kingdom, hopefully. Right? But yeah, you can just reach out and ask questions. I wouldn't really charge for that. If you're a copywriter, if you really want to learn, happy to give advice. And it's all about giving. This whole industry needs more of that, more about giving, precisely what you're doing with this channel. And if there's any way that I can give value, just reach out and we'll make it happen. The other thing, I do have a quick gift for someone watching or anyone watching. I'm going to be sending you a document with a Playwright playbook that I put together. So next time you're in front of like a VSL page and you really want to know how to improve Playwright, so hopefully you can get a better shot at collecting some good cash without writing copy, right? You could just use what's inside. It's a Google Doc, so you just gotta get viewers access. Feel free to make a copy, and yeah, go ahead and use it for anyone watching.
Wow,
right?
Thank you so much. That's such a nice gift. So I'll add it to I'll add it to the description of this video. Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Cool.
No problem.
Well, thank you so much, Israel. It was really, really great chat. Learned a lot. And I'll chat with you soon.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Take care, bro.
See you.